Yes, guys, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave and your favourite show of the week with your boy Shawnee. Shawnee, first of all, how are you keeping, my man?
I'm exhausted, mate. I'm exhausted. It was a late night yesterday. I didn't get back from the stadium until about 1:45, and then had to do some uploads and things, so I didn't get to bed until about 4 o'clock this morning. So I'm pretty tired, but I'm in good spirits. Always great to be back with you, the Flat Cap Army. Shout out to the Irish Hotspur Army. And yeah, another 3 points, mate. So always a happy Monday or Tuesday in this scenario when you picked up maximum points on the weekend.
Well, look, being unbeaten, top of the league, 2 points clear with a chance to go 5 points clear against Palace, Shawnee. It sort of gets you through these tired days. But first of all, everyone, big up Shawnee in the comments for the graft, staying around after the game, getting fans' opinions and staying up late at night to be able to upload them. If there is anybody, we've got quite a few, the likes of Tin Man. He went to the games and stuff like that. If you do want to do fan cams, make it known in the comments underneath if you're at the games, and I'll let you know where Shawnee will be, or Shawnee will let you know where he'll be. Look out for it, and go and do the fan cams. And if you haven't, get over and check them out. Absolutely brilliant. But look, Shawnee, let's start with maybe just your overall thoughts on yesterday's game, maybe before we go into some deeper topics that I've lined up today.
Yeah, overall thoughts on the game. Look, I think it was comfortable. I think that the 3 points never looked in doubt. I always thought we were going to get a goal, break them down. And then once we got the first, it was a matter of time before we got the second. And then I think once you go 2-0 up, you're going to beat Fulham, because Fulham don't often score enough goals or more than one goal. And look, they've got a terrible track record against, away in London, terrible track record against Tottenham. And so it felt a bit of a formality. If I'm honest, and I've got to be honest with you guys, like I was frustrated watching it in the stands. I think there was moments of excellence, but I think there was a lot of sloppiness mixed in. And I want to see Tottenham, because I think we're capable now of playing such amazing football. And I know that when you play with that kind of front foot, and it's a bit more risk on, so you're going to have moments of vulnerabilities. But I just get frustrated at times with some of the decision making in the build-up play, some of the lack of willingness for some people to take shots when the opportunity's there, some sloppiness in the passing. It's unnecessary. I don't want to come across like I'm not happy or I'm negative, but in a fair critique, I just think that there's ways that we can improve. And I think that, we've got a lot tougher games that are coming up now. Our kind of easier run is somewhat behind us. Next up, Palace, maybe they're not, I don't know, we'll talk about that maybe, but after that, it starts to heat up a little bit with some more complicated games and more complicated opponents. And so I just think Tottenham need to kind of be a little bit more efficient. And that's my only real concern, is that we're top of the table. And maybe it's a good thing, because we're not quite, firing on all cylinders yet. And, we're still undefeated and top of the table. And there's an opportunity this season, Dave, because I don't think that Manchester City is as good as last year. I think they're really missing, some key players. I think Rodri's have been a big miss. Kevin De Bruyne has been a big miss, and losing out on Gundogan and stuff. I'm not sure they've really replaced some of those people that have left. And so there's an opportunity there to close the gap. I think Arsenal haven't also hit their top gear yet, and so I think that Tottenham need to kind of be as potent as possible and really. And really kind of get ahead of steam. That said, still 3 points. And for where we are versus where I thought we would be after 9 games, you can't really complain too much.
No, look, first of all, I agree with you. I think there's a real opportunity for us this year that no one's really talking about. City right now, they're missing, they've let some experienced players go over the last few years. Sterling, Mahrez, people like that. And injuries to De Bruyne or Rodri. They carry another couple of injuries, over the course of the season. It could really come back to sort of haunt them. And they are sort of going through a bit of a rebuilding phase. Yes, they'll constantly be up the top because of how good their recruitment is and the quality of the players they recruit. But there's an opportunity there for us this year while they're in a bit of a rebuilding sort of phase. You look at Liverpool also in the midst of a rebuild. So there's going to be ups and downs there. You look at United, nowhere near the levels. Chelsea, not really anywhere near the levels. Arsenal, in my opinion, I've said this quite clear. Arteta's causing a lot of his own problems there, and I think eventually it's going to come back to haunt them. So there's a real opportunity for us this year, a bit like when Leicester went on to win the league, for us to be able to go and do it. I really do believe that, and I think it's something you said to me before. We should have pressed record earlier on, but something you said to me beforehand. You want to see us rip a team apart, and I I agree with that. And realistically, the opportunities have been there. Luton, we could have been 4 up, 5 up within the first half an hour. Yesterday, same thing in the first half. We created a lot of chances, didn't really take them. And there's other games gone by where we could have really put a team to bed. And I think it's going to take us to do that or for pundits and everyone else to sort of really look at us and say, hang on here a minute. Maybe Tottenham are title contenders. It is going to take for us to rip a team apart. But another thing, what I want to stress to people out there, we're top of the league, 2 points clear, 100%. A lot of things are positive, and it's a good thing that we're at this point where we're actually nitpicking on certain things rather than where we have been the last 3-4 years. But I do think it's important to highlight these issues. So,
Yeah.
although we're top of the league, it's not like we're sitting here complaining. We're just maybe looking at issues that we think maybe should be looked at, reassessed, or even assessed, so that we can maintain this title challenge. The greatest of teams, the greatest of people, they're not even when they're top of the league, they're not afraid to look at things and critique themselves to get better. And that's why they maintain themselves, they're being up the top of the league. That's why they go on to win things, because they're not afraid to critique or look at things, even when everyone's praising them. So I do think, we should be. But look, Sean, some of the things I do want to get in and maybe talk about. And the first one is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Now, there will be a discussion, whether we should play him against Palace and rest Basuma for Chelsea. We'll get on to that in a few minutes. But all summer long, and even for the majority of this season, there's a lot of talk about fans wanting Højbjerg out. And look, it's the majority of the fan base, to be fair. The majority of the fan base, want Højbjerg out. But for me, when I look at it, if you're comparing it to what we've got in the first 11, I can sort of understand that point of view. But for me, I'm looking at this, especially next season, when you're challenging all 4 fronts, we will need a squad. There's a reason why the last few years we keep going out of cups very early, because when we go to involve the rest of the squad, they ain't good enough. And my argument would be that I think we need to reassess maybe the conversations around Højbjerg, that we should be looking to keep him around as a part of this squad, especially over the likes of Ollie Skip, over the likes of Lo Celso, because I feel like he offers more. And proven last night, when you dip him in around better players, he can step up.
Yeah. I think Pierre-Emile Højbjerg had a really good game yesterday. I think he's a little bit slow to start. He was one of the guys that I felt sort of gave the ball away a couple of times at the start. But once he got that out of his system, I think he was pretty... I think he had, in the end, I think he had about a 95%. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. Pass accuracy, 76 from 80, which is really, really impressive considering he was spraying the plays around. And I think a couple of those 4 that he missed were actually in the first 2 or 3 minutes from memory. But I thought he had a really good game. He tried to go long, and he was I think he had 4 successful long balls from 5. I think he was a really good game. My issue with him is not that I want him out of the club because I don't like him or I don't think he's good enough. I just think that there's an opportunity cost with regards the square peg for round hole. I don't think he's quite as mobile as we would like to have a replacement number 6 for Bissouma. But what I do think you have in him is a player who is a consummate professional. He will always give it 100%, whether he's playing for his place or he's playing for a move. And I think maybe he won't be satisfied with the idea of playing second fiddle. I think he thinks, and rightly so, very highly of himself. And I think he thinks he should be playing as a regular for one of the best teams. The challenge is that I don't think that he's quite good enough to get into one of the very, very top teams and the top sort of 1 or 2 teams in anywhere in Europe who have the natural money. And there's a lot of links for someone like Juventus to come in for him. But, he's going to want to be moving if he can get a move to somewhere like that. But are they going to be able to afford the money? And I think that the right valuation for him is 35 million quid. Now, as I say, with the opportunity cost, if you can get 35 million pound for him, then I think you can go and use that and get a better fit for that sort of money that is a natural number 6, which is something I do think we need in a world where, Bissouma is someone who's obviously our first choice. I didn't think Bissouma was, and I hold my hands up, I was completely wrong. I didn't think he was the monster number 6 that we were looking for, but he's been completely, he's been one of the best DMs in the league by far this year. So for me, I haven't got a problem with Højbjerg. I love him. I think he's a fantastic professional, a great player. I just think he probably is better suited to different systems than the one that we are trying to present. If you do play him, you're going to need him to have the support of other players, which is going to mean
Yeah.
that they're going to have to necessarily come more narrow. Pedro Porro might have to be a little bit more inverted to support him in a double pivot system, or Pape Sarr might have to come back and double pivot with him, which obviously then affects the rest of the balance of the team. And so even though I think he's brilliant, I think yesterday he was spectacular. I think that it's okay if we let him go if we can get the right money, because I do think that there's other players out there that are available, affordable, and that probably offer similar physical attributes to and the kind of mobility attributes that I'm looking for from a traditional single pivot six.
Here's where I disagree. I think we can raise that money through Ollie Skip and through the likes of Lo Celso, sell them and bring in that midfielder that you're talking about. And then all of a sudden you're talking at the moment, Bentancur, Højbjerg, and whoever that other midfielder is as your next three to step in. Whereas if you let Højbjerg go, that means it's either Ollie Skip stepping in or Lo Celso stepping in. And from what I've seen from them in their time at Tottenham, not great. And I don't think any of them suit the system either. And when I'm looking at it next year, you're talking about 60 games. So there is going to be games there for Højbjerg. We are going to need an absolute squad next year to compete on all four fronts, which is what Postecoglou is here to do. He's a winner. He wants to win trophies. And I just think we should be looking at it more as an overall squad rather than who fits straight into that 11. And I do think we need to reevaluate looking at Højbjerg compared to his keeping a Skip or Lo Celso around. Now, look, it ultimately comes down to, does Højbjerg want to play this role? Well, I think come January, if we're still top of that league, I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he digs in and he fancies the title challenge. And then for me, I think it's just about Postecoglou keeping him focused and saying, look, Højbjerg, next season, we're going to need you 60 games. Challenging all four fronts, there's going to be plenty of games there for you to get in. Plus, when you are challenging all four fronts and you get European football, statistically, your injuries go up. You carry a lot more injuries. So again, there's going to be even more game time there for him. So rather than maybe the way Højbjerg may have been looking at the start of the season, look like, I want out, my sort of Tottenham career has come to an end. I think it could very easily be revived. And if we can revive it and we can get him focused and wanting to stay, I think there's more benefits of keeping him around here than there is a Lo Celso or an Ollie
I agree
Skip.
with that. No, listen, I agree with the principle. Like if you're looking at the pecking order, Højbjerg for me is far further north than Lo Celso or Skip. Obviously, Lo Celso probably is competing for a slightly different role. But I take your point about that, and I don't particularly want to sell a better player to keep someone like Skip, who I completely agree with you is weaker at the moment. I thought Ollie Skip had a decent stint last night, though. I thought he was pretty impressive when he came on. I thought he made a cracking challenge down the right-hand side in the second half. Anyway, getting off the point. For me, I think you're right, though. I think in summary, though, I think it comes down to what Højbjerg wants. And you have to remember that Bentancur is going to come back and immediately, in all likelihood, sit above Højbjerg in the pecking order again, right? So if you were to sell a Skip or a Lo Celso and keep a Højbjerg, is Højbjerg going to, even if you can sell the dream and say, look, we're going to be playing 50, 60 games next season, there's going to be minutes for you. Well, there's going to be minutes for people that aren't in the first 11. But if Højbjerg is suddenly fifth choice, which he would be, then how many of those additional minutes will he get if Bentancur also needs a spot, or if Pape Sarr, if Bentancur comes in and Pape Sarr gets relegated to kind of first off the bench, then, I wonder whether or not Højbjerg is, the benefit of Højbjerg is that he is a mentality monster, but that's also going to be something which is going to have to be considered as a negative in this conversation, because he, as a mentality monster, will not want to play fifth fiddle for a team that he thinks he should be starting and has started for every game for the last 2 years.
I hear that, but I think it's different if you're playing at Tottenham and you're challenging for silverware than when you're playing at Tottenham the last couple of years and where we've ultimately been. Why would Højbjerg accept being fifth choice at a team that finishes 8th, right? But when you're challenging for trophies, a bit like Man City, people go like, why did Calvin Phillips want to go to Man City, for instance? Because he knows there's a high chance of him winning trophies, even though he's further down the pecking order. And, so for me, I think it becomes a different conversation, especially a different maybe thought process for Højbjerg if we are challenging for trophies. Like I said, 4 competitions next season. Injuries are going to be ramped up as well because that's statistically proven. So there will be a lot more minutes, and I think it could be a different conversation. But look, like you said, ultimately it does come down to what Højbjerg wants. But I just think for the criticism
and if there's a club out there who can pay £35 million for him or 35 million euros, because that's what the going rate is, I think, And I just said there, you mentioned Calvin Phillips. Again, another player that really splits opinion. I've done 2 or 3 videos on this guy, and the comment section is literally one comment says, bring him in, love him. The next comment says, he's an absolute waster, don't want him. I don't know how you feel about Calvin Phillips. I personally think he is a really, really talented player, and I think he would suit that 6. I think he gets around like a tenacious pit bull, but when he's on the ball, he can spray the passes into the channels quite effectively, and I think he would suit the system probably slightly more than Højbjerg, and I think you might be able to get him for the same. I don't know if Man City would do a deal with Tottenham, but if they did, you've got an English quota player as well for about the same money. And if you're having the conversation, Højbjerg or Phillips, I'd probably go with Phillips. Who would you go with?
I'd rather keep Zinedine Sauceberg, to be honest with you, Shawnee. I think, look, I'll be honest, if Calvin Phillips was Danish, I don't think there'd be that hype around him. Or if he's Swedish or another nationality, I really don't think there'd be that hype around him. Being honest, what I see from Calvin Phillips, I think he's a very passive player. I think we're bringing in another Harry Winks, picks up the ball, moves it sideways. I don't really rate Calvin Phillips, so I would like us, if we do sell Højbjerg, to go into the market with more gusto, someone that actually has a presence and affects the midfield, than someone that's realistically a bystander. But I would rather keep Zinedine Sauceberg. But I do think, just in general, there's been a lot of criticism around him, and I take the arguments. Look, when you're playing beside someone that's weaker than him, he's not going to elevate them to a new level. When Weeks played beside him, he was piss poor. When Skip played beside him, he was piss poor. However, last night when he's playing with Papa Sarr, Madison, and other players around him, brilliant last night.
Yeah, that's true.
What else was I going to say?
He levels up.
He was brilliant.
He does level up,
Yeah, he was brilliant last night. And when he played beside Bentancur last season and the season before underneath Antonio Conte, up until Bentancur went injured, he was absolutely brilliant. So for me, I do think, we should be looking at it more as keeping him around here as a squad player rather than quickly just going sell. I think there are other players that are clogging up that midfield selection that should be gone out the door long before Højbjerg. But look, Sean, question is...
Before you move on, I don't disagree. I'm happy with either outcome. If we can find the right, because I really like him and I want him to do well and I want him to succeed. If he can find a club and we have a plan to use the money effectively, I'm okay with it. If there is a desire from Ange to keep him, I'm also okay with it.
Yeah. Look, it'd be fascinating to see what happens. I just think I'd be more confident as him as a squad player than maybe other players. And let me know in the comments what you think on that conversation. But look, Shawnee, big question is, does he keep his place in the team for Crystal Palace? And I know some people are going to say, Dave, you're deluded. Just bring Bissouma straight back in. However, if Bissouma plays and picks up a yellow card, that means he's suspended for Chelsea. And me personally, I think we'll need him much more against Chelsea than what we would against Palace. And I'm not sure I want to run the risk of him picking up a yellow, because more than likely, with the amount of yellows and cards he has accumulated, that's going to happen. And I think we need him more for Crystal Palace, and he'll be more effective in that game, or for Chelsea, than what he will be against Palace. So I think Højbjerg playing with Sarr and Madison would be good enough to get us over the line. What would you do, though, Shawnee? Best 11 versus Palace and keep the momentum, or do you drop? Do you keep Højbjerg in the team for Palace?
No, I agree with you. I think it's a really good idea. I was having this conversation last night with a couple of guys in the stadium. I think that the logical thing would, of course, bring Bissouma back. You want to keep the momentum, but actually, you have to have one eye, like a game of chess. You always got to be thinking 3 moves ahead. And I think that Bissouma, I mean, the midfield of Crystal Palace, look, they're dogged defensively, but they're without so much of their attacking threat. The midfield is tough and steady, but they're not the technical craft of a Caicedo and an Enzo, and a Gallagher at the moment. So I feel like Tottenham absolutely need to have their best 3 on the pitch, if at all possible, for Chelsea to give us a fighting chance of controlling the midfield in that game. Person who wins the midfield battle often wins the game, right? And for me, I think that is so important. And for the same reasons you've just espoused, he has got so many yellow cards that I think we can afford to keep Højbjerg. And also, I think that Højbjerg deserves to keep his place. I think he played well last night. And you know me, I like always to say about meritocracy. If someone comes out and someone comes in, and that person who does come in does a really good job, then I think that he should keep his place, especially if there's a logic for the method that we're trying to espouse here, and that is to make sure that Bissouma's available for Chelsea. So yeah, I'm happy to see Højbjerg stay in for the Palace game.
Yeah, same here. Interesting again, people. Put in the comments, let us know what your thoughts are. Best 11 v Palace and forget about the Chelsea game and deal with it when it comes. Or try and be smart, rest Bissouma, make sure he is available for that Chelsea game. Let us know your decision in the comments. And then look, last talking point I have with you, Shawnee, is a bit of a controversial one. And look, realistically, we could go for the next hour back and forth on this, to be honest with you. But Richarlison, look, I thought you had a good game last night. I was surprised to see maybe a lot of comments saying that they thought he was piss poor. I thought he was one of our better and most creative players on the pitch last night. And surprisingly enough, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. He's got more goal contributions than Kulu, who I think only has 2 goals, 0 assists in less minutes. And he works extremely hard off the ball as well last night, pressing up, putting pressure on, try and win that ball, try and keep them pinned back, trying to keep them, forcing them to go along with it so we can mop it up on the back line and build another attack. I don't think he gets enough credit for it. And look, I do understand why a lot of people have been frustrated with Richarlison in the past. But should we maybe be looking at the situation a little bit differently in terms of the contributions he has made, Sean, going forward in terms of assists and goals?
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. I know, again, I'm getting so many comments that I'm hating on him. And maybe I do. Maybe I have kind of set my stall out about him from before he even joined the club. And it's going to take a lot for me to be impressed. But I genuinely think, look, put aside the stats, right? Like the 3 goals and the 2 goals and the 3 assists. That's 5 goals in his entire career at Tottenham, and he's cost near enough 60 million quid if he hits the necessary targets. That's about 12 million pound a goal. It's not enough. And remember, I know he's not responsible for the price tag. I know he's not responsible for it, but I think that Tottenham fans, generally speaking, are guilty of lowering the bar to what they expect from Richarlison. Then they don't offer the same levity or the same leeway or leverage towards other players. If Maddison put in a performance like Richarlison did or does generally, we would say it's a horrendous performance. He's had a little run of better form over the last 3 or 4 games, or this season, than he had last season. But last season, the bar was so low. It's difficult to get worse, in my opinion, than he was. And so, of course, he's in the best form of his life at Tottenham at the moment. But I would point you back to the fact that, we spoke earlier, we haven't smashed a team yet. We want to tear a team apart. We could have torn Luton apart. But there were 2 opportunities in the first 3 minutes that were gilt-edged chances. It was harder to miss than to score, and they fell to him. Yesterday, I think he had a good game, but I think it's also very important to remember that Fulham's right side of their defence, which isn't particularly brilliant in the best days, losing out on Kenny Tete, who's I think a really, really accomplished right back, and being replaced with Castagna, who's like injury prone and rubbish, and then also losing out, not having Adarabioyo or Issa Diop, I think it is, available, and having to replace him with Bissa, who's a left-sided centre-back or a left-back, naturally. Like, the complete imbalance. And so all of the opportunities should have and would have come down the left-hand side if Tottenham were playing smart, but I just don't think that he's competent enough. I'd sit there and see him take 2 shots. I think he's battling demons with his confidence. He's contributing, but I think some of those assists that he's got are simple passes that anyone could make. Bugsy Malone could have found the pass that led to it. Was Sonny's brilliance that created the goal. Just because you pass the ball 5 feet into him, you're going to get a lot of credit. Look, if people want to love him and hope for the best, that's fine. I personally just want to hold everyone to the same standard, and I just don't think he has shown the value, and I think that it's a problem. For what it's worth, when Brennan Johnson came on, I don't think he did anything. He didn't spread his legs at all. And the game was so compressed at times. The entire 22 players were caught in an area of the pitch that extended about 3 yards past the centre circle either way, right? So there was so much space in behind. If any of our forwards, including Richarlison in the first half and Decky and Sonny, but in the second half when we made some changes, people like Brennan Johnson didn't do it either, made some runs to allow people like Romero or Van der Ven to be able to pop balls into the channel. We could have had so much more success. I just think that Richarlison, he might be in his best vein of form for Tottenham, but that doesn't mean much because it's been so protracted and drawn out. I don't think he's the right guy. I don't think if we're trying to be a Champions League team or a title winning team, does he get into any of the other teams around us? I'd say the answer is no. And on that basis, I'm still sold on the idea that if you can get 35 million quid for him, I'd bite your hand off. And people that will come back and say, but he's Brazil's number 9. It doesn't. It's not, for me, that's not a justification as to why we should think more highly of him than his performances for Tottenham. He played okay yesterday. I still think he was frustrating for me with his first touch, and I think he was wasteful as well. I think he had 2 good opportunities, and both of them, he didn't have a shot on target. He gave the ball away 17 times. He only touched the ball 49 times, and he possession lost 17 of them. He won less than half of his ground duels. He had 4 crosses, none of them successful, and a pass accuracy of 71%. Sorry, it's not good enough. And just because he got an assist, it kind of flatters to deceive a little bit on the performance for me.
Look, I understand what you're saying. And look, there's still doubts long-term whether he is good enough for Tottenham. 100%. And look, I don't buy that Brazil argument that he's Brazil's number 9. It's the worst Brazilian team I've seen in my life. It's I don't buy that argument. They're currently going through, the worst period I think they've ever gone through. So, but look, when it does come to Richarlison, and one thing that I will say, Sean, is that in years gone by, I've criticized players very, very heavily because they don't care. Because when they've come out to the press, or they have come out and spoke, they've blamed managers, they've blamed the coaches, they've blamed training, they've blamed not being allowed ketchup or mayonnaise. I've heard it all. They've blamed referees, they've blamed, going to away day, and they've blamed the home crowd for being too noisy. I mean, I've absolutely heard it all. Whereas with Richarlison, he has come out and said, look, problems off the field is leading to problems on the field, and I'm going to get it sorted. And I like that attitude. Someone that wants to improve, someone that recognizes it's to his own doing and wants to get it sorted. And I just wonder what maybe we're starting to see of late. Is that working? That he is, whatever help he's gone to receive, it's sorting out the off the field issues, which means he's starting to maybe pick up his performances on the field.
I don't know. I think that he can't. He still can't. Even if he fixes everything off the field, he still can't. His first touch is still going to be terrible. Like at his age, to the level he's been playing at, he's not going to suddenly find a first touch. Yeah. And I also, but just for what it's worth, I know a lot of people say he works hard, and he does work hard, and that is to his credit. And I've got to be honest and consistent. When Decky has bad games, I'll always actually use the same argument that off the indirect value is his playability, his strength, the things he does. So I will lend that to him in his favor in the pro column, that he does work hard. But for what it's, I was saying this to you backstage last night when we broke away 2 or 3 times. If you were watching on the TV, you probably wouldn't have seen Richarlison because he would have been out of shot, right? They would have been focusing on the player with the ball. But Richarlison was like jogging forward, and after about 50 minutes, his hands were on his knees. I'm not sure he's match fit, and he should be match fit 9 games in. And he maybe it's tired because did he travel to South America for the international break? I'm not sure. He did, right? So maybe it's a bit of that, but like I don't know. Like I say, there's a few pros for me. There's a lot more cons, and I just don't think he's going to take us to the level we want. And I do think we need to go again on some level with the forward options in the January window if we're in a position to kick on.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying by all means that we need to keep Richarlison, but it's something I'm going to keep an eye on over the next few weeks, whether he continues to improve or whether he doesn't. Because, look, sometimes a player comes to a club, he doesn't hit the ground running straight away, and he does take time to settle. But look, let's wait and see. All I'm saying is, I know there's a lot around Richarlison saying he doesn't do anything, and I've been guilty of it myself. When I went and looked at maybe his goal contributions over the 9 games, he's got more than any other winger in the Tottenham team. And I think maybe off the left, he is contributing in terms of assists and stuff like that. And, you know, if he does, he will keep Brennan Johnson out of the team if he comes on and performs like he did yesterday. So very interesting.
Last thing I'll say on it, mate, is last thing, quickly. We are coming up now against stronger opposition. Once we get Palace out of the way, we've got Chelsea, Wolves, Villa, Manchester City, right? And then in December you've got West Ham and Newcastle, and lots of tough opposition to play against. We're going to need to be more clinical. We go back to the very first question you asked me, and I said some of my frustrations are about how clinical we are and how wasteful we can be. And I think a lot of the time we do break down the left-hand side, and there's opportunity and momentum building in the play, and his first touch lets him down, or his final shots on target aren't there. When he does put it on target, he hits it centrally, which, you know, goes straight into the legs of the keeper against Luton, for example. I just think that if we are going to be able to continue this form against the better teams that are coming up, we're going to need higher conversion of opportunities and higher chance creation from the width, because they're not going to come. The opportunities aren't going to come with as high a frequency as they do against the weaker teams. And so you're going to need to see Richarlison or whoever it is really turning the key a little bit more. And that to me is the concern, is how many chances does he need to get the one or two good bits of play from it?
I can understand that. Look, like I said, let's wait and see if he improves. If he scores against Chelsea, Sean, might change your mind. But look, we'll wait and see on that. Chances are he's not going to score against Chelsea, but you never know. Let's just see if he continues to improve, because if he does continue to improve, the better it is for us. If he doesn't, well, then we'll have to go back to them conversations of cashing in on him. But everybody, get your comments in below on your thoughts on Richarlison. You know, should we be maybe look to get off his back a little? He is starting to improve lately, and give him maybe an opportunity, see if that's still there. Or do you still agree with Shawnee? Look, you know, he's not good enough. Get him gone. We're moving on. We need to bring in better so that we can challenge for honours. But Shawnee, my man, where can people find you?
Spurs Talk Show, guys. All on all the socials. And obviously, if you are at the games at the home games, after the games, depending on what time the stadium closes, I'm either going to be outside the south stand on the right-hand side, where there's the kind of toilets and the portaloos. I'm over there every week or every other week. And then on the Monday night games, like against Chelsea, because they close the stadium really quickly, we move down to be outside the club shop. So you can find me there in the physical form, and you can find me on Spurs Talk Show in the digital form.
But guys, make sure you get over and smash subscribe on Sean's channel first and foremost. He's absolutely flying, not far off 20k. So help him reach that goal. And second of all, I want to see some of the Irish Hotspur army on them fan cams after games. I know a lot of you get in contact pre-match build-up, putting in comments saying you're going to games. So I want to see you on the fan cams after games. But that's it from us. We'll see you again very, very soon. Put in the comments any discussions you want us to have going forward in future. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big Andrew Trust, we never stop. You're going to have to show me how to do that, lad. That's awesome. Toys for big boys.